finest in underground television.
L'Allegro by John Milton. Hence, loathed melancholy of Cerberus and blackest midnight born in Stygian cave forlorn, mongst horrid shapes and shrieks and sights unholy, find out some uncouth cell where brooding darkness spreads his jealous wings and the night raven sings. There, amid ebon shades and low-browed rocks as ragged as thy locks, in dark Cimmerian desert ever dwell. But come, thou goddess, fair and free, in heaven ye clept Euphrosyne, and by men heart-easing mirth that lovely Venus at her birth, with two sister graces more, to ivy-crowned Bacchus bore. Or whether, as some sager sing, the frolic wind that breathes the spring, Zephyr with Aurora playing, as he met her once, a Maying, there on beds of violets blue and fresh-blown roses washed in dew, filled her with thee, a daughter fair, so buxom, blithe, and debonair. Haste thee, nymph, and bring with thee jest and youthful jollity, cranks and quips and wanton wiles, nods and becks and wreathed smiles, such as hang on Hebe's cheek, and loves to live in dimples sleek, sport that wrinkled care derides, and laughter holding both his sides. Come and trip it as ye go on the light fantastic toe, and in thy right hand lead with thee the mountain nymph, sweet Liberty. Or if I give thee honor due, Mirth, admit me of thy crew, to live with her and live with thee in unreproofed pleasures free. To hear the lark begin his flight, and singing startle the dull night from his watchtower in the skies, ere the dappled dawn doth rise, there to come in spite of sorrow, and at my window bid good morrow, through the sweet briar or the vine or the twisted eglantine, while the cock with merry din scatters the rear of darkness thin, and to the stack or the barn door proudly struts his dames before, oft listening how the hounds and horn clearly rouse the slumbering morn from the side of some hoar hill, through the high wood echoing shrill, sometime walking not unseen by hedgerow elms on hillocks green, straight against the eastern gate, where the great sun begins his state, robed in flames and amber light, the clouds in thousand liveries dight, while the ploughman close at hand whistles o'er the furrowed land, and the milkmaid singeth blithe, and the mower whets his scythe, and every shepherd tells his tale under the hawthorn in the dale. Straight mine eyes have caught new pleasures, whilst the landscape round it measures russet lawns and fallows gray, where the nibbling flocks do stray, mountains on whose barren crest the laboring clouds too often rest, meadows trim with daisies pied, shallow brooks and rivers wide, towers and battlements it sees bosomed high in tufted trees, where perhaps some beauty lies, the cynosure of neighboring eyes. Hard by, a cottage chimney smokes from betwixt two aged oaks, where Corydon and Thyrsis met, are at their savory dinner, set with herbs and other country messes, which the neat-handed Phyllis dresses, and then, in haste, her bower she leaves with Thestylus to bind the sheaves. Or if the earlier season lead to the tanned haycock in the mead, sometime in secure delight the upland hamlets will invite, when the merry bells ring round and the jocund rebecks sound, to many a youth and many a maid dancing in the checkered shade, whilst young and old come forth to play on a sunshine holy day, till the livelong daylight fail, then to the spicy nut-brown ale, with stories told of many a feat, how Fairy Mab the junkets eat. She was pinched and pulled, she said, while he by Friar's lantern led, tells how the drudging goblin sweat to earn his cream bowl duly set, when in one night, ere glimpse of morn, his shadowy flail hath threshed the corn, that 10-day labourers could not end. Then lies him down the lubber fiend, and stretched out by the chimney's length, basks at the fire his hairy strength. And crop full, out of doors he flings, ere the first cock his matin rings. Thus done the tales, to bed they creep, by whispering winds soon lulled asleep. Towered cities please us then, and the busy hum of men, where throngs of knights and barons bold in weeds of peace high triumphs hold, with store of ladies, whose bright eyes reign influence and judge the prize of wit or arms, while both contend to win her grace, whom all commend. There let Hymen oft appear, in saffron robe with taper clear, and pomp and feast and revelry, with masque and antique pageantry. Such sights as youthful poets dream on summer eves by haunted stream. Then to the well-trod stage anon, if Johnson's learned sock be on, or sweetest Shakespeare, fancy's child, warble his native wood notes wild. And ever against eating cares lap me in soft Lydian airs, married to immortal verse, through which the meeting soul must pierce in notes with many a winding bout of linked sweetness, long drawn out. With wanton heed and giddy cunning, the melting voice through mazes running, untwisting all the chains that tie the hidden soul of harmony, that Orpheus' self might heave his head from golden slumber on a bed of heaped Elysian flowers, and hear such notes as, falling on the ear of Pluto, would have quite set free his half-regained Eurydice. These delights, if thou canst give, mirth with thee I mean to live.
Here before you is an opportunity to plumb the depths of the mysteries that confound and intrigue us. A chance to ask the big questions. Dr. Hal is not concerned with questions of trivial matters or of facts that are easily gathered elsewhere. Dr. Hal seeks the questions that transcend fact. He stands before you, ready to take questions that used to be brought to wise and aged sages on distant mountaintops. These questions can now be asked from the comfort of your living room. No Sherpas required. Simply direct your favorite web browser to our new and simple-to-use website, AskDrHalShow.com, or click the Ask Dr. Hal button below our live Twitch broadcast. You will be spirited away to the magical Co-Fee portal, where all you need do is submit your burning question in the handy message field, and assign a monetary value you wish to place upon it. Our stage ghost will then convey your message live to Dr. Hal, and he will answer in the manner that only Dr. Hal can. Don't worry, we never sell, share, or solicit using your provided email address. PayPal will ensure that your valuable love offering goes directly to Dr. Hal. Links to submit questions and more can be found at our website, AskDrHalShow.com. Do not let this opportunity to consult a modern-day oracle, a seer for seers, a man steeped in the arts, sciences, and esoteric studies, pass you by. We present to you, through the very miracle of the internet itself, the one and only Dr. Hal Robins, now making house calls.
And everything blue screens.
Oh, please don't say that out loud.
I was just collapsing the reality tunnel.
Oh, fine. Okay, you figured out how to do that. Wow. That's amazing.
So we're no longer on the reality channel?
No, we've left that a long time ago, Dr. Hal. Welcome back. It's good to see you.
Bonne nuit. Greetings and salutations.
You are a little under the weather this evening, I understand.
Well, I hope it's not that obvious, but in this life, some rain must fall.
So, well, I just, it was just, I wanted to kind of let everyone know if in case you sounded a little nasal or. I didn't want one of the questions would be, I didn't want someone to waste their money on an
What
inquiry.
the hell's the matter with you, boy?
An inquiry into your health.
I could certainly answer that, but there's nothing more boring than listening to people talk about their conniptions and ailments.
Yes.
Unless they pay $9.
Well, then we'll have to make it interesting.
Well, $9? What planet are you on? There's inflation.
The one where we've collapsed the reality tunnel.
Oh, that one. Yeah, I recognize it now.
9 is a fine number.
It's a steaming pile, just like the other reality I know.
Shoot.
Yeah, I know. You can't. It's grass isn't always greener on the other.
Is there?
In the other dimension.
Well, it's good to be here again, especially since last month we had a slight problem of me not having the right hookup to join you on the show.
We were Hal-less. We were bereft.
Yes.
Very sad.
Bereft of Hal. Terrible thing to be.
Well, we are going to take another look at some of the questions that came in last time.
Indeed, we will be.
We are, and so we were talking earlier about you know those boxes of Captain Crunch that say like "Whoops all dingleberries." It's like, well, it's just kind of like the "Whoops all questions" show. We're doing a lot of Q&A.
Well, that is the meat of the show, after all.
Truly, yes.
But we do have one that is I'm going to make sure I've got it up here. I may have to fix it so it comes up. I think I know where it is.
Something special, eh?
It is. And it, by some weird synchronicity, the person whose question we're replaying here, because it was an audio question, Reverend What the Falk, just happens to be in the audience this evening, which we are very happy about. We haven't seen the good Reverend
Indeed, yes. Welcome, What the Falk. Very good to see you.
And we've even asked about Reverend What the Falk. So,
well, perhaps if we're really lucky, he'll be joining us in the after-show chat, which we invite everyone to do.
Indeed, yes.
But we happened to resurrect one of his audio questions that he sent in, and we put a little animation to it, since it was an audio question. Well, it just kind of, I like the way
animation.
It turned.
All right,
yes.
I like the way it turned out, so we'll play that a little later. But we've got a ton of questions. So, Professor Gofflin, I'm going to put you on the spot and say, why don't you ask Dr. Hal the first question, and whatever one you pick is one that I won't read again.
Oh, I would be delighted. Let me shake the jar really quickly and see what we have. Let's dig back here into the past.
So full of possibilities.
Here we are. I'm going to ask you a question from a friend of the show, Reverend Dr. Billy. And Dr. Billy asks, Dr. Hal, is there a question that you are surprised that nobody has yet asked?
Well, this is a sort of a binary setup with a yes or no at the end of it. But the implicit assumption is that I judge the questions by their quality and am seeking one that I haven't got around to answering yet. But I have to accept them all on an equal basis as they come. Of course, what one always hopes for in a position like mine is that I can answer a question where the answer is well known to me and not have to fish through the great infinite for what seems an appropriate or likely answer. And since you ask whether it is or whether it is not, I will have to say that it's Heisenbergian, a quality of both possible existence and possible non existence, because until it is asked, and by me answered, it has not come into existence yet.
Perfect.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Hal. Oh, and I'm sorry, I neglected to say that was a $15 love offering.
$15 love offering. Well, that is mighty nice, mighty rich, and most appreciated. Let me say a poem then by Shakespeare. The Seven Ages of Man. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. At first, the infant, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. Then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail, unwillingly to school. And then the lover, sighing like furnace, with a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow. Then a soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard, jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's mouth. And then the justice, in fair round belly with good capon lined, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances. And so he plays the part. The 6th age shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on nose and pouch on side, his youthful hose well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice turning again toward childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. Last scene of all that ends this strange, eventful history is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Weird synchronicity there, Hal. That has been kind of echoing in my brain for the last week. So it's funny that you should choose that one.
That is interesting. Well, it's like when I had that virtual reality experience with two Majungasaurus dinosaurs, which is an obscure species that I'd been studying. And so why was I confronted with them? Another synchronous example is our cartoon, The Sunshine Makers, followed by L'Allegro, which takes the part of the joyous and against the glooms. However, the glooms will have their inning later on in the show, if that's not a spoiler.
If everything goes as planned.
Well, yes, of course, everything may go totally haywire.
May. Oh my goodness, I should mention, we have had blue screens today. It has
blue
been
screens, render errors, power outages. We have traversed the absolute worst of technical difficulties to bring this show to you, dear viewers.
Blue screens, sneering at me. Nothing but blue screens do me.
Oh, you're onto something there, Hal. If only life was like a musical and we all knew those words and
Yeah,
we all joined in
yeah.
with you just now, that would have been a
When faced
magic
with
moment.
an intractable problem, bursts into a song and dance.
This is
But
good
then you
policy.
have to end it and get back to your problem.
And when
True.
we sing, you'll notice the time lag between us all, which is really amusing.
Just
Hmm.
the bi-coastal nature of this
Yes, when I was
project.
watching last month in New York, there was a definite lag between sound and lip movement. That may happen in the far-flung reaches of our empire, but it's simply an artifact of what we do.
I am hearing my volume is low.
Hmm.
Oh.
Let me just actually, I'll just bring that mic in a little closer.
Oh, there you are.
And
Yes.
hello,
Much improved.
hello. I'm so glad you want to hear me. That's
Yes.
nice. That's nice. Turn it down, Pressure.
Yes, usually you're getting the opposite,
I want you to confine your shenanigans to the rumpus room. Keep it down to a dull roar. I don't want to hear one peep out of you kids. And so forth and so on.
Story of my life. Joyce says that to me now. I get banished
Oh,
out to the office. Don't come
oh,
back in until the floors are dry.
You
ah.
can afford a rumpus room? That's amazing.
Well, there's rumpus out here.
Not to mention the Krampus. Well,
Oh,
what's next on the roll of honor or dishonor?
We have
indeed.
piles of rumpus. Well, let me see. I have questions galore, and Professor Gofflin, I'm going to go ahead and take this one, and we'll bring you back here in a few minutes.
Sounds good.
And there we are. Let me see. I have a question here. Let me go back in time to January the 7th when this question came in. Let me open it up and view the details. It is a $12 question from Yoshiaki Coach, also called Pinks.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, Happy belated New Year, Dr. Hal. July 5th has also attracted a lot of attention in the country where I live, strangely enough. What will happen this year?
Well, the official answer as a subgenius is that this is the year that the pleasure saucers of the sex goddesses will descend and take all the deserving subgeniuses, even those who are perhaps undeserving, off on a lengthy journey to the ultimate confrontation with reality, the end of all things, otherwise known as the punchline. But it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge that many times we have assembled at landing fields, at landing stages, and seen no saucers at all. So we have to keep in mind that this is a possibility. Perhaps Japan is a better place for them to make their appearance. If so, we hope that you will remind them that it's in the contract that was originally made with J.R. Bob Dobbs that they would come to where we are and pick us up there. Kind of a cosmic come as you are party. So all we can do is wait for the development of that incredible climax.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Hal. Let's see. I have here a question. This is a $6 question from the Great Bloviator, friend of the show.
Mm-hmm.
And he asks, Dr. Hal, what do you think of a remake of The Thing with Two Heads with Bob as one of the heads?
That would encapsulate the predicament which every subgenius finds itself in. That is to say, there is always that other head who is commenting and causing us to see things through the subgenius lens, reminding us which is the slackful path and which will only lead us into a mare's nest of unnecessary complications. But of course, in The Thing with Two Heads, if it's the movie I'm thinking of, you have a racist and a black football player as the two heads sharing the same body, one of them being Raymond Burr, not the football player. Was that Roosevelt Greer? At any rate, complications, and it is to be assumed a kind of hilarity ensued. In a more recent movie, The Substance, misguided cosmetic high tech stuff causes a body to split and two beings to be developed from it. But of course, this goes out of control too. One must centralize all the elements of one's personality. And even in actual two-headed people, like the Hensel twins today, one head must dominate and one head must give in. If both heads try to control, the body goes nowhere. In the case of the Hensels, the head on the right controls the right half of the body, and the head on the left controls the left half of the body. But even since their childhood, when they appeared on Oprah Winfrey, they have no trouble running around and playing normally. So they are in perfect unison. And however many heads you may have, you have to get along if you're going to get anywhere.
Now, Hal, I have a question here that in the queue, it says it's from Dr. Hal Robins for $3.
That's odd. I don't recall submitting one.
That's because I submitted the question as a test question.
Oh, I see. I was hoping it would be one that would be easy for me to answer.
No,
since
it
I
was.
originated
It may be, but it was something that I was musing on at the time that I was testing this particular thing. And I said, well, you know what? I am going to ask Dr. Hal this because it sounds like something that's right up your alley. And it is. Can data be compressed so much that it becomes a solid?
Well, if it becomes a solid, can it still be retrievable? If so, then it can. But if it becomes irretrievable as a result of high compression, it is no longer composed of individual data. It is barely a datum in itself. There has to be a path for the question to reach the seeker, like what we offer on the show. Of course, it might be necessary to compress such things into a hard state to make them easily transportable and storable. But as to the technological feasibility of this, I do not think I can comment at the present time.
What? That doesn't get a poem?
How many did you say?
$3.
You're $3.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I could do a bad poem.
Sure. No. We're fine.
All right. Well,
we're
okay.
fine.
Perhaps a dirty limerick.
Yes. Oh, man. I almost did one that was filthy right from the first line there for a second.
Oh, really?
I'll keep it a family show tonight. I'm feeling magnanimous.
It's for the best. The wee ones may be watching.
One never knows. Those wee ones.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, we were talking about Reverend What the Falk earlier.
I can do it in a dirty one.
Me too. We should have a dirty limerick off. We'll do dirty limericks at 30 paces.
Well, now that I've started, I'll just have to officiate because I don't have any on hand. So
you'll drop the handkerchief or whatever they do for those things.
Yes, exactly.
Hal and I will just let loose with a stream of epithets and
at some future time. Yes.
Just terrible things we'll say. In any event, I have Reverend What the Falk here. And let me go ahead and play that. Let's see how it goes. Let's hopefully it'll work.
All right.
It's all magic. Here it comes.
Dear Dr. Hal, among the supplies on my road trips, I keep a battery-powered electric fly swatter, which produces a subtle but satisfying zap when it connects. But recently, before I got around to recharging its dead batteries, one of those honking big black flies got trapped inside the car with me. I use honking merely as a figure of speech. I was not under the influence of a hallucinogen. After at least 5 frustrating minutes of the fly eluding the swats of a folded magazine, I pulled out my trusty spritzer filled with pure grain alcohol, which I use for general sanitizing, and which I only occasionally dilute for personal merriment. A couple squirts of 190 proof managed to make contact, crippling the fly so that it now flew slowly and erratically enough for me to give it a good whack. The alcohol probably felt like a massive chemical burn to it, but I comforted myself with this mumbled prayer. Goddamn flies. Unfortunately, the blow did not instantly kill him, or should I say it. The thing landed on the dashboard directly in front of me and used its 2 forelegs slowly and almost piteously to drag its crushed ass in my direction, its big red eyes seeming to gaze deep into mine for the split second before I extinguished its agony and its condemnation of my murderous soul most foul. I do have faith that in what remains of my current life, I will receive no direct punishment from Cosmos for this act, as I am not a Janist, and because every breath we take and every move we make most certainly cause countless tiny critters within us and without us to get snuffed at an impressive rate, did we but know. Here at long last is my question. Could you suggest some act or ceremony through which, in case consciousness is recycled after death, I might effectively lessen the chance of retribution from spirits or forces at which for millennia humans have blindly guessed? Or if an answer to that question is too vast for the brief time allotted your program and our lives, how can I quell my discomfort over my torture of that fly more quickly than the eventual dimming of emotions associated with all memories, and more permanently and safely than using more of that Everclear? Thank you, and may I add I am frequently enlivened by the sagacity of your discourse, and I also like them big words you use. Yours, whether you like it or not, Reverend Watt de Falk, OCD. Falk.
Remarkable. I thought the question was going in a different direction, but of course, William Blake compared a human being to a fly who will go about its business until some blind hand shall brush its wing. Also, it is commonly said, the Lord in his wisdom made the fly and then forgot to tell us why. It often comes to mind, if a fly is flying around in your car, how fast is that fly going? Do you add the speed of the car to the speed wherewith the fly traverses the relatively smaller space of its interior? Nonetheless, though I have read at least one authority which presupposes that flies have a sense of humor as a sort, we must not get into conniptions because a fly has overstepped its bounds and interfered with us, causing us to lose a fly speck-sized piece of slack. Always more slack, not less slack, is our eternal watchword. You have nothing to reproach yourself for. And in fact, you and the fly have now entered into the noosphere, the combined accumulation of all human arts and sciences and knowledge, by virtue of submitting your question here to the Ask Dr. Hal Show, the home edition. We are happy that this is the eventuation and not some fly-sized portion of guilt which may continue to buzz around at an inopportune moment.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Hal. Fine answer.
What, I was playing with that, and we wanted to put a little visual interest on the audio. And we did it once before when he sent that audio question to us, except he was a Tyrannosaurus in a cocktail bar.
Or at least some sort of theropod. But why did I think this was something to do with the temperature of a witch's breast?
Oh, I believe we will revisit that.
Oh, all right.
That's someone else's question.
Oh, all right.
We'll get back to that.
How easy it is to get confused in the pelting stream of questions. I hope that satisfied what the Falk, however.
Well, in the grand scheme of things, we were looking at questions like to repeat for the show in case you had trouble
Mm-hmm.
getting in. And
Mm-hmm.
then Gofflin and I were looking at that, and we realized how problematic it was for both her and I to work on it. So then it was like, well, you know what? Let's do something else. And well, you were traveling when we decided we were going to do something else. So,
Yes.
you
It is
know,
the Ask Dr. Hal show, not Ask the Producers
right.
questions.
So, we had some we had that question, we found it, and it was just such a lovely thing, and I started playing with it, and then I put that character on it, and it just worked. It just kind of looked so natural and went with the words so well. We had to replay it. So that was a 2 for the price of 1. There's
Excellent.
good doctor. And I was going to say, let's go to our first monster movie moment. And then I looked at the queue and I noticed there is a $35 question from our very, very good friend, Dr. Wolfgang Amadeus Gotterdammerung. And I'm going to read
Hmm.
that question, but I'd also like to mention that last month, after the show was over, and Amy and I wiped our brows and said, well, that was fun to do that. He left us a $75 donation.
Holy guacamole.
Just because Dr. Hal is someone that he appreciates. So that is words cannot describe our appreciation
Truly,
for
just
that.
He
just
is a
to
translator of obscure books and poems, and it's an honor to have him dally with the show.
And him and I have been ships passing in the night, and since that's kind of what he does for a living now, it's kind of ironic. So, but at least I think that's something like what you do for a living, from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
But in any event, that $75 did not have a question attached to it, but the $35 that he sent us tonight does. So I will pass that question along to you.
Good plan.
It is, which kaiju's rule would be the most beneficial to the world?
That's interesting. Of course, I by no means have a comprehensive understanding of all of the variants of the kaiju universe. But we want to eliminate right away the ones that go stamping on cities. One always wonders what motivates them in this case. If they were an actor, they might inquire what their motivation was about. At least in Godzilla -1, there was something related to food gathering, as in the abortive American Godzilla attempt of a few years back. But many kaiju are not seen on the surface, but are known for burrowing through the underground, especially in the Q series, which predated the appearance of Gojira itself. This was a very popular half-hour television show in Japan, and it's actually possible to get a wonderful DVD copy, which comes in a cool metal box with a wonderful booklet and so on, only for about $10, unless it's gone up. This series tended to feature a different, unusual monster each time. And when I say unusual, I mean they were just that, almost like the ones seen in Big Man Japan, if you can conceive of them. So anything that turns the soil over fecundates it and causes it to grow, and perhaps opens passageways to hitherto unsuspected underground realms where anything may be turned up, perhaps for a beneficial purpose or cause. I will say a poem by Clark Ashton Smith, which should be appreciated by this questioner. He who has trod the shadows of Zothique and looked upon the coal red sun oblique, henceforth returns to no anterior land, but seeks a latter coast where cities crumble in the Black Sea sand and dead gods drink the brine. He who has known the gardens of Zothique, where grows the fruit torn by the simorg's beak, savors no thought of greener hemispheres. In arbors uttermost, in sunset cycles of the sombering years, he sips an Aramanth wine. He who has known the wild girls of Zothique shall come not back a gentler love to seek, nor know the vampires from the lover's kiss. For him the scarlet ghost of Lilith from time's last necropolis rears, amorous and malign. He who has sailed in galleys of Zothique and seen the looming of strange spire and peak must face again the sorcerer-sent typhoon and take the steerer's post on far-poured oceans by the shifted moon or the reshapen sign.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Hal. I have here a question from our dear friend Reverend Xenofact. It is a $20 question.
Oh.
And he asks, Dr. Hal, if I send you $20, what would you do with it? Let's find out.
Then I have to tell where this emolument goes. It usually seems to attach to the rest of whatever ephemeral holdings I manage to accumulate. And as far as I can tell, will not be sequestered for the purpose of making a purchase. However, my dinosaur collection, which is already insupportably large and caused me to sleep on the floor between piles of books and other objects, may be expanded if soon I'm able to get the Ampelosaurus from the French people, Papo, or their Suchomimus. But both of those things cost more than $20. These things aren't as cheap as they used to be. But let's just say that submission will not go to creating inequality in the world or sorrow, but rather bring a little joy to at least one person, i.e., me. And this is an additional poem by Keats. Bright star, would I were steadfast as thou art, not in lone splendor hung aloft the night, but watching with eternal lids apart, like nature's patient, sleepless eremite, the moving waters at their priest-like task of pure ablution round earth's human shores, or gazing on the new soft-fallen mask of snow upon the mountains and the moors. No, still yet steadfast, still unchangeable, pillowed upon my fair love's ripening breast, to feel forever its soft swell and fall, awake forever with a sweet unrest, still to hear her tender taken breath, and so live ever, or else swoon to death.
Thank you, Dr. Hal. Amazing.
I was recently visiting the city of New Orleans, and my friend Bellavia took me to the Museum of Death there.
Ooh, that is fascinating, isn't it?
Yes, for the morbidly inclined, I wouldn't recommend it for everyone. And on the back of the ticket, it warns that you might indeed swoon because people have, or fall over and knock things, or get divorced after being there. It's seriously hardcore, and for the morbidly inclined, still I can say that I have done it. So what is coming next?
You know, funny you should ask that because we were thinking that it would be a good time for our one and only monster movie moment this month.
Uh-huh. Yes, we usually have two, sometimes even three, but this one I think will be memorable.
We have so many questions this month, and the
Yeah.
queue is growing. And the audience, that doesn't mean you're off the hook because the monster movie moment means that you have time to get out there and get more
Scribble
questions.
and scrawl your questions in the format in which you wish to submit them.
Indeed.
Bring them on, folks. That's what the doctor's here for. He's making house calls. It's expensive.
Not necessarily, but it can be.
Make it expensive. Let's make it expensive. Anyway,
You know
folks,
what, audience? Treat yourself to concierge questions answered this evening.
That's nice. I like that. We'll use that again. All right. Well, our first monster movie moment, folks. Hope you enjoy it. Get those questions in, and we'll see you after the break.
What a delightful Irish monster movie that is.
Yeah, you know, I switched over to this, and I wasn't sure if Professor Gofflin had anything she wanted to say about it.
Not at
No, that's
present.
after. Oh, she doesn't.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, Goff. I'm sorry.
No, just my disembodied voice breaking in to say no, I have nothing to say. But please check out Grabbers. It is a fun film.
It's
Yes,
a
perhaps the
heck of a
thing speaks
movie.
for itself. Res ipsa loquitur.
It is a hoot of a movie. It's a lot of fun. So yeah, audience, rent it, spend money on it.
And drink while watching it.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, have a drinking game. Every time they drink, you have to. That's a
Well, you wouldn't reach the end of the movie.
might not reach you might reach the end of your time on the planet. But I have a question here from a very good friend who is a long way away where it is probably late at night there. So I'm going to read his question up very first in this particular segment. And it's from our very good friend over in Great Britain, Reverend Griffin. And it is a $6 question. And the question is, it is what it is, but what is it?
Well, it is what must be confronted and acknowledged. Otherwise, there is no need to try to classify it at all. Taxonomy is our approach to understanding, and it has been said, especially by Dr. Lowe, that science is simply a matter of naming everything. And so, when confronted with something that one cannot understand, one can always classify it and place it in order in one's conception of the great scheme of things.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Hal. I have here a $11 question from friend of the show, Dr. Reverend Big John.
Mm-hmm.
And he asks, what is the best match game answer for, boy, it's colder than a blank outside?
Well, What would that be? Not colder than an abominable snowman's hiney or anything like that. It would probably be the old standby, colder than a witch's tit. These secondary sex characteristics were rumored to be of a lower temperature than usual. As other agents of the dark forces are also supposed to be cold. When worshiping the devil or a devil at a sabbat, participants always reported that when they made the point of contact, I won't say where, they found it quite cold to their lips. Let us say colder than the proverbial witch's tit, which brings to mind another poem by Clark Ashton Smith called The Witch with Eyes of Amber. I met a witch with amber eyes who slowly sang a scarlet rune, shifting to an icy laughter like the laughter of the moon. Red as a wanton's was her mouth, and fair the breast she bade me take, with a word that clove and clung, burning like a furnace flake. Yet from that high uplifted bosom, when I touched it with my hand, came the many-needled coldness of a glacier-taken land. And lo, the witch with eyes of amber vanished like a blown-out flame, leaving but a lichen-eaten stone that bore a blotted name.
Hey, Joyce just handed me a question from the audience. I'll get to that in just a
Well,
couple minutes.
so fresh, so freshly submitted.
See, we pay attention. We pay attention. We're watching everything that goes on. We are omnipotent, and we are also intercessors for Dr. Hal. So we are your guide to this journey of adventure and learning. But I have here well, it's not a question at all, and it is no name attached to it, but it is $5. It is from Anon, and best to you and yours in the year 1998 is simply all it has to say.
Well, we appreciate that. If this should turn out to be the fabled year 1998, because clearly the method of Christian ordination of the date does not serve or go along with the subgenius calculations of that nature. So thank you for the wish. I do hope that if this is 98, it will be the best 98 possible.
One more question for you, and this is from Reverend Drunculus. This was also from last month. It is an $11 question, and let me open it up to make sure I have the full view of it. He says, I need a cathode radium tube for the replica of the Zist saucer I'm building in my backyard. Where can I find one?
Scientific supply houses would be a good place to start. These don't have as much stuff as they used to because now most people are in the realm of computer science and that sort of thing. So to buy old-time scientific or electrical equipment is not that easy. But I could also say, pardon me, on the internet, you can find everything. That's one advantage of it. And another thing you could do is take old signs apart and so on. But you probably would need an additional electrical source or a boosting device, like a step-up transformer. At any rate, I wish you happy tinkering in your search.
Now, every time I'm in Chicago, I make a point to visit American Scientific Supply, which is
Yeah.
a fabulous place if anybody here is interested in maker, tinkering, hacking, things like that. They have many unidentifiable electronic components that they just sort of sell in bulk. So,
Interocitor parts and so.
exactly, precisely.
Mhm.
One must assume. At any rate, Dr. Hal, I have another question here for you. It is actually a two-parter,
All right.
and this is from Shut Up Avery. It is a $9 question, and they ask, would you read or recite Do Not Go Gently Into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas? And then they follow up and said, sorry, we both know it's Do Not Go Gentle. I'm blaming autocorrect.
Isn't that autocorrect irritating? I have a great deal of trouble whenever I'm writing because it thinks that I'm misspelling things when I'm using words that are appropriate to what I'm writing, particularly when I'm naming characters in stories. They want to change it to people who are on the internet or spoken above, and such names as Taylor Swift pop up in what I'm writing. You have to go back patiently and undo it, and then after a while it gets it. But it's hard to write a basic little note of that kind. I have digressed a bit, and so I would like you to remind me about the interrogatory portion of this question.
Of course, Dr. Hal. This was a request to read Do Not Go Gentle
Oh,
Into That
all
Good
right.
Night by Dylan
Well, you see, the
Thomas.
way this works is we usually reward high-paid questions with a recitation, but since you have asked, I will recite that famous lyric by Dylan Thomas. Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds would have danced in a green bay, rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
Got it. We Amy and I were exchanging comments back and forth. It's like, okay, I'll take this next question. No, we read it already. How about this question? Oh,
We have secret handheld radios that we use back here backstage.
Walkie-talkies, eh?
so the what you heard me say there was just a relief. I've got it. Good. We have one. This is a $20 question, Dr. Hal, and it is from our very good friend AgraJag. And it is a question that resonates through the ages. Will there be anything else?
Well, I suppose so. As Sir Thomas Browne said, time hath endless rarities, and shows of all varieties, which revealeth old things in heaven, maketh new discoveries in earth, and even earth itself a discovery. You can always add one more thing to the queue. In the case of this show, one more question. But the question is really for us, not can it be done, but is it seemly to be done? After all, we are in some measure in the entertainment business here, and too much information is an unpleasantness that we are often confronted with. And how much was that question sponsored by, did you say? Something large, it sounded like.
That was a $20 question, Dr.
Yes,
Howe.
very well. So, this is by Professor Tolkien. The fat cat on the mat may seem to dream of nice mice that suffice for him and cream. But he, free, may be lost in thought, unbowed, proud, where loud roared and fought his kin, lean and slim, or deep in den in the east, feasted on beasts and tender men. The giant lion, with iron claw in paw and huge ruthless tooth in gory jaw, the pard, dark-starred, fleet upon feet that oft, soft from aloft, leaps on his meat, where woods loom in gloom. There wanders he, fierce and free, though tamed is he, the fat cat on the mat, kept as a pet, he does not forget.
This rings true with our house cats.
Yes.
All right, very well. Well, we have here another question. This is from last month as well. This is from a user named OKBobOK. It is a $15 question, and they ask, found a poster this week with many books pictured and a quote from Isaac Asimov. Any book worth banning is a book worth reading. Let's see. Oops, I'm sorry. I've lost the second part of the question there. Here we are.
I'd have to agree.
Will we be rescued from the two-party system by sci-fi?
You've got to remember there are obnoxious sci-fi entries as well, and the original Buck Rogers story devolves into sort of horrible racism if one reads it. Then one thinks of Norman Spinrad's amusing work, The Iron Dream, where Adolf Hitler never was the cruel dictator who caused so much trouble to so many people, but actually a hack science fiction writer who wrote of horrors and atrocities, but never actually performed them, and achieved a great fan base. No, science fiction, which Forrest Ackerman named sci-fi, because Ackerman was always into what he thought was refining of the language, and he was also thinking of the word hi-fi, which was common at the time. These things are simply suggestions of alternatives, and we always need that, particularly when the predicament we find ourselves in is deeply unsatisfactory.
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Howe.
I think I lost track there.
We're doing a quick accounting of questions back here and behind the scenes, so apologies.
Multitasking.
Yes, of necessity.
Let me see. I have a question here. It is a $3 question from Dr. Snow. And let me just open it up, make sure I don't have it longer than I think it is. Do the Exists arrive when they receive the Amos and Andy signal, or do they depart when they receive the signal?
Well, is that signal still going out, or having once gone out at the speed of light, is it only received now, or was it received many years after it was sent? Amos and Andy was an incredibly popular radio program before it was ever a TV show, and it was entertaining to people all over the world. And thus, by extension, one might assume that it entertains our friends from out there, or even our enemies from out there, who might consider us, for that reason, to be infamily fixated and not worth saving, only worth destroying. Everything that we've done in the form of radio waves has traveled out from our world, but the information fans out, and only the highest technological devices of some unknown super race would probably be able to put it into any appreciable form. It also is somewhat egotistical of our species to think that our trash TV shows and that sort of thing are better than what they could come up with. If they are so advanced in technology, perhaps they are more advanced in the humanities, which are now sadly neglected.
Excellent. Thank you, Dr. Hal. Let me find the question I was looking for. Ah, I have found it. Okay. This is a $10 question from our dear friend, Professor Trixie von Mothersbaugh. Hello,
Oh,
Trixie.
good.
And she asks, do you have any advice for younger members that are new to the church, especially if they are shy?
Well, my advice is to read the literature, the subgenius books, to collect them and to read them. And the more one reads them, the more one gets what they are about. And once one gets what they are about, one is tempted to add to the accumulated lore of the Church of the Subgenius. One of our precepts is that any old thing a subgenius says is not only true, but to be automatically added to the corpus of subgenius thought. And in doing so, one does not look at the other people, but with them at the promise of the subgenius literature. It is something that originated in and continues on the printed word. And so one can easily join with another person in looking at that. And in doing so, then perhaps one will have a glance at the other person as well, and even a joining, it is to be hoped.
I'm having problems with my little buttons over here.
Oh, no.
It happens with age.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
Stay in your rosary.
Well,
But I like this. I like this Subgenius Prescriptures study suggestion. I think was sort of what
well, the
was being hinted at.
prescriptures are basic and in the first book, but although the other books are out of print, as I said earlier, everything can be found on the internet, and you can read Revelation X, the Bob Apocryphon, the undissented new testicle of the Church of the Subgenius, as well as Three-Fisted Tales of Bob and the Cyclopedia of Slack. And that might be all the stuffing with subgenius precepts that one might be able to expect to absorb, at least for a while.
There.
Still having trouble with that button, eh?
It's all of a sudden my little iPad over here is slowing down. I think it's getting evil signals from Apple.
Button,
that
who's
could
got
be.
the button?
There's a dwindling amount of Apple equipment in this room, so.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you there.
Although I did just try a pair of their AirPods for hearing aids.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard those are fairly good. Actually, I was trying to get my mom on a pair of those.
They were pretty effective.
Yeah.
I've got to do the retuning with them again, but now we're talking. That'll now. Well, I'm trying my AirPods for hearing aids these days.
Odd pods.
I just talked to my dentist about having some bridges put into these teeth up here that are missing too.
No.
Sans eyes, sans teeth, sans taste, sans everything.
I want to try to keep your teeth as long as possible, and dentists like to pull teeth, so you have to factor that in.
Yeah,
And then once they do,
yeah.
then your other teeth will want to migrate into the space where there was once a tooth, and to keep them from doing that, the dentists want to pull those teeth also, and to get the new boat or whatever they're trying to get, a new computer maybe.
My last
Pretty soon
dental
you got-
adventure was actually because I chewed into something and sheared the side off of a tooth. So
Yeah,
and it
chewing an electrical wire.
well, yeah, actually, that was exactly what I did. It was live too.
Oh.
Yeah, I know.
I had a root canal fail from
Oh.
biting into a soft piece of cheese,
Oh no.
which I and a friend asked me, "Well, did you finish the cheese?" And I said, "Well, of course I did."
Yeah, you might as well. Well, at least you get something out of it.
Well, we have a musical guest tonight. It is our good friends, the Dust Bowl Faeries, and it is called the Hazel Remix. And it is a very unusual piece of music. I love this kind of stuff for the Ask Dr. Hal show.
Yeah, it's very intriguing.
I don't know if I got to tell the audience, but I got to meet a couple of the members of the Dust Bowl Faeries, and they are just lovely people.
Mm-hmm.
If you're ever in their neck of the woods and you get the opportunity to see them, they put on the most wonderful show. And I heard something that's going to stick with me for a long, long time. The lead singer plays the saw, and she called it an acoustic theremin.
Oh my goodness!
And as soon as she said, "Okay, I'm going to play the acoustic theremin," everybody knew exactly what she meant.
Oh, that's fabulous! I love that.
If you think about it, that's exactly what a saw sounds like. So, but a remarkable piece. So, audience, we have time for questions. Don't let the number of questions we're answering tonight fool you. The doctor we have pumped him full of amphetamines. He is ready to go. He's got 3 cups of coffee. He's ready to run on a gerbil wheel. So ask those questions, and let's see if we can't, we'll make Dr. Hal think that cold out of him.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
We'll make
by increasing the ambient brain temperature. Surely this will cook out the illness.
We are, man, on the same wavelength. Absolutely. You took the words right out of my mouth. Well, with that, so here are the Dust Bowl Faeries. If my button works, it could be delayed. You might be standing here staring at me for a second. Here it is. There.
Oh my goodness, I love their videos so much. They do such a wonderful job. I mean, as musicians, they're so talented, and then to also just be fabulous visual artists as well. It seems patently unfair, but oh, bless them.
The ram is usually with them everywhere. It is Ryder's spirit animal.
Is that Hazel? The
Hazel, yes.
Okay,
Hazel is
yes,
the ram.
yeah.
I
Okay.
couldn't think of her name.
Interesting.
But yeah, that's and they're such an interesting band. And like I said, they're just the most genuine folks that you'd ever want to meet. Very personal, very pleasant. Just.
Where did you meet them?
At a birthday party of one of our
Really?
subgenius friends. Yes, they are actually a very good friend of Trixie Mothersbaugh.
Uh-huh.
And they were they were such good friends that they were playing Trixie's birthday party.
Right?
And
Jealous.
we were there. It was the social event of the year.
Oh, it must have been.
It was
Oh.
no, it was great, good fun. It was a hoot. Apparently, we freaked out some of the folks there when we I gave the subgenius cheer.
They weren't expecting that, huh?
No, that rang out of like 4 or 5 people in the room. So,
Well, if they can't take a joke. Oh,
Yeah, so they say.
well, we have a question, and I think Professor Gofflin is going to read this one, correct?
Indeed, yes. I'd be very happy to take this.
All right.
okay.
I rebooted my iPad, so let's see if the button works. Otherwise, I'm going to have to use a mouse to do this, and
Oh dear. Oh
you know,
dear.
and,
Okay.
and the vision, sans eyes, right? Here it comes.
Ah, perfection. All right, here we are. This is a $30 question from our good friend, the Great Bloviator. And he asks, well, Dr. Hal, I really stepped in it this time. I'm in a pickle, and I need your advice on the best way to handle it. Should I try the old switcheroo, go with the dipsy doodle, or hit him with the whamma jamma? Help me, Dr. Hal.
Hmm. Well, you might go with the whamma jamma by hitting him with a dipsy doodle, and I recommend that course of action because then the agency of the thing which is set in motion is made less clear. Perhaps you're familiar with the song, the big band song about the dipsy doodle. It is quite an effective insect in what it does. I think it is best for those you encounter not to inculcate anger or resentment from you. How interesting it is that many subgenuses are not viewed as potential vessels of wrath, when in fact a great many of us are. And the whammy is always a possibility, though we should try to restrain ourselves in our sympathy for the slackless. That is, restrain ourselves insofar as it goes. The shadows where the mulips dwell are dark and wet as ink, and low and softly rings their bell, as in the slime you sink. You sink into the slime who dare to knock upon their door, while down the grinning gargoyles stare, and noisome waters pour. Beside the rotting river strand, the gloomy willows weep, and harshly then the gore crows stand, croaking in their sleep. Over the Murloc Mountains, by a long and weary way, to a narrow valley where the trees are gray, by a dark pool's borders, without wind or tide, moonless and sunless, the mulips hide. The cellars where the mulips sit are dank and dark and cold, by single flickering candle lit, and there they count their gold. Their walls are wet, the ceilings drip, their feet upon the floor go softly with a squish flap flip as they sidle to the door. They peep out slyly through a crack, their feeling fingers creep, and when they've finished, in a sack, your bones they take to keep. Over the Murloc Mountains, by a long and lonely road, through the spider shadows and the marsh of toad, and through the wood of hanging trees and the gallows weed, you go to find the mulips, and the mulips feed. Professor Tolkien.
I have a question here from not just a friend of the show, but an old friend, Popus Lilith von Fraumensch.
Yes.
It is a $20 question, Dr. Hal.
All right.
And it is: conspiracy physicists claim that time is strictly one-dimensional. But if time were actually multidimensional, topographically speaking, does it have holes?
Well, is time a sort of formless, nebulous force, or anything which might be perceived as a geometric solid, an object? If it is an object, it may have all the irregularity of any natural object. But we tend to think that it stands outside the world of objects and controls or forces the entity of appearances. Time will always be perceived as a current going one way and not the other way. Of course, in other universes, it not only may go the other way, but it may go orthogonally to our own way. There is no way to say. But it would be wrong to assert dogmatically that such a thing could never be. It is typical that ignoramuses claim that they have the answer, while the wise admit and acknowledge that they know hardly anything at all. This is The Death of the Ball Turret Gunner by Randall Jarrell. From my mother's breast, I fell into the state, hunched in its belly till my wet fur froze. 6 miles from earth, loosed from its dream of life, I awoke to black flak and the night fighters. When I died, they washed me out of the turret with a hose.
I think we just got things backwards.
Oh, you've hit the incorrect button. There we
Really?
are. Thank you. Thank you, Pontius Pressure. Let's see. I have here a question. This is a second question this month from Reverend Xenofact. This is a $15 question, Dr. Hal.
Oh, all right.
And Xenofact asks, the famous rapper Sir Mix-a-Lot said, I like big butts and I cannot lie. Was he compelled to be truthful only about ample posteriors, or was he compelled to tell the truth always?
Well, you could only judge by the specific work that is levied, and in this case, that was the subject. That was what he was creating a lyric about. So naturally, it should be confined to that. But there's nothing to keep him from talking about absolutely anything, as long as he manages to make his subject matter as palatable as it is to most people. And I think it is fruitless to speculate on what someone didn't say or didn't write when our job, as it were, is to make sense of what is set before us, purely selfishly, to deepen our own enjoyment. To an ancestor. Sir, will I know your voice in paradise, when I am free of the loutish flesh and risen above anguish, yea, perceiving without eyes? Before my turn, you loved the flesh that dies, even as I marveled on the compact prison. Sir, will I know your voice in paradise? Then, more than now, The meat was beset by flies, the appetite and soul by guilty fission, above anguish, yea, perceiving without eyes. My speaking voice still turns the tunes it tries. Here where the fire is mortal, I press on. Sir, will I know your voice in paradise? You, who before my grandsire could surmise, spewed your descendants in one grand emission above anguish, yea, perceiving without eyes? When my real ear that in the flesh ear lies joins with the several parts' eternal mission, sir, will I know your voice in paradise, above anguish, yea, perceiving without eyes? Ruth Stone.
Dr. Hal, I have a question here. It is a
Let
follow-up
me say,
question. I'm sorry.
let me just say that that poem is a villanelle similar to in structure to Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, just in case no one noticed. Sorry to interrupt. Please go on.
Not at all. No, that was, and that's just such a beautiful piece. Anyway, I have a question here. It's a follow-up question from our good friend Reverend What the Falk.
Mm-hmm.
And it is, what was the poem Dr. Hal quoted mentioning something about Earth's swooning shore?
It was the poem "Bright Star" by Keats, but the actual reference is "Round Earth's Human Shores." Not swooning, but there is swooning at the end of the poem, as offered as one possibility. One might live forever or swoon into non-existence. And on the back of your ticket of the Museum of Death, it warns that this is something you might do, but you're not allowed to sue them, even if this is the eventuality.
Very good. Dr. Hal, I believe we are nearing the end of our question queue here. I do have another one, and we will shake the jar once that is done. But audience, please feel free to get your last questions in. Now is your opportunity.
Of course, as the evening progresses, I may exhibit the features of a cold more and more unpleasant,
Oh,
which
I'm so
is something
sorry.
I should warn you about. But yes, let's keep it going.
All right, we'll forge ahead. I have here a $6 question from Reverend Dr. Les, and
Uh-huh.
he asks, why does breakfast become more pleasurable the later you have it in the day?
Well, it's interesting that you should ask that, Reverend Dr. Les, because my own practice is to have one meal a day, to have it, to break my fast with it. So it is breakfast, but it is later in the day, so it might as well be lunch, or you could call it brunch. But I do not, in general, pile a dinner on top of that. One may always consume food, but sometimes one feels better by not doing it. So they say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I don't know if that is said anymore. One should eat when one is hungry and drink when one is thirsty, so as not to wear out the mortal machine and cause parts to have to be replaced, which is sometimes difficult to order and expensive to install.
Indeed. Although I could go for installing a breakfast burrito right about now.
Oh yeah, especially that.
We have sort of the perfect breakfast burrito. There's a place called Lucky Boy in Los Angeles that makes the just the finest breakfast burrito I cannot convey to you. The combination of hash browns, perfect bacon, and melted cheese with egg
Oh,
is
that's
just
inside the wrapping, eh? Well, that
yes,
sounds pretty
indeed.
good.
Yeah. It lacks. I grew up with breakfast burritos that had beans,
Mm-hmm.
typically in Tucson,
Mm-hmm.
Arizona, but
Mm-hmm.
this is a very fine concoction of
Well,
its
the
own.
Mexican food in Tucson, Arizona is quite different from our Northern California Mexican food. The closer
Very
you get
true.
to the border, the more interesting it becomes. I think in Tucson is 65 miles away from, or is it 67, from the Mexican border.
Indeed, yes.
A
I
marvelous cuisine, really. Uh,
I think Tucson was recently awarded a UNESCO City of Gastronomy award.
hmm. Yes,
S-
one
s-
wouldn't think so,
yeah,
but they have some marvelous places there. Tucson will
uh,
always surprise you.
indeed. Anyways, enough waxing poetic about breakfast burritos. Pressure, did you have something you wanted to add?
yes, I have to say I had butterflies before the show because everything was so foobar, and I didn't eat, and boy, that conversation was really.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm
well, you
so
can
sorry.
Oh
prepare
no, no,
something
no,
after the
no! I
show.
was debating on what I was going to eat as soon as the microphone was turned off.
You can always take a hard tortilla, drop some red powdered pepper on it, and then melt cheese on it in the
Oh,
microwave
I'm with
oven.
you, man.
make
I'm right
make
there with
yourself a
Yeah,
you.
little
eat
quesadilla.
those things. Those are quite tasty.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually gonna like quick scramble an egg and throw it in a tortilla with some
Oh,
cheese
eggs.
and some
Oh,
hot
Boasting
sauce.
sounds
about
good.
your wealth, I see.
Yes, eggs hard to come by these days.
Beware the bird flu. It's hovering wings.
I want protein.
Yes.
Oh, it's something's going to kill me someday, and I probably already
That's
know
right.
that. I probably already, have seen the name of the Mack truck that's going to spank me. So
It may as well be a scrambled egg and a breakfast
might as
burrito.
well.
If the Lord doesn't kill you, the devil will.
Truly.
You know, if the devil finds work for idle hands, that was something the nuns always said, and then they found work for you.
Well,
Hmm.
they were finding it so the devil wouldn't find it.
Is that how that works? I see.
I see. Well, they're
Hmm.
certainly not comparing themselves to the minions of the arch enemy.
I wouldn't be so sure.
Maybe on a
Suspect.
subconscious psychological level they are. But to bring this up in a classroom situation would be to invite the chastisement on the knuckles of the steel ruler.
Hmm. I guess the answer wouldn't be, well, then I suppose I shouldn't listen to you then.
Hmm. And what would the work that they found be like? Would it be whitewashing a fence or doing an extra page of sums in the textbook or something like that?
They were insidious. Um,
You should be rewarded for not doing the devil's work, not penalized. But the whole thing, as we all know, is kind of psychologically aberrant and suspect.
I think they might be a classic example of people don't really think about the things they say before they say them. So it's,
In
um,
Adam's fall, we sin it all.
we did spin the wheels again, and there
Yeah,
is one more question.
yeah.
And I'm going to go ahead and read it to Dr. Hal.
All right.
Professor Gofflin will bring you right back. It is from Reverend Puck Amok. And let me just make sure I have all of it here. It is a $25 question, Dr. Hal.
Wow.
And do privacy laws allow me to clear my Akashic record?
Mm. Well, the Akashic records aren't known to anyone, even Madame Blavatsky herself. The Akashic records, as described, are supposedly things which exist outside of time, and your destiny is written there, enscrolled there. And so there's nothing you can do about it except perhaps to indulge in the custom of privacy and demure probity. After all, what business is it of anyone's else that you have to struggle with principalities, thrones, dominions, kings, or whatever, or perform some sort of jiggery pokery to pay the electric bill? These are your cross to bear, and whether or not in these lines in eternal time all your doings are inscribed, that is not for others to be involved with. Let them look to themselves, we say, or better yet, to be in blissful ignorance of what the stern recorder has penciled on the enrolling scroll of fate. The Sands Odie by Charles Kingsley. Oh, Mary, come and call the cattle home, and call the cattle home, and call the cattle home across the Sands Odie. The western wind was wild and dank with foam, and all alone went she. The creeping tide came up upon the sand, and o'er the sand, and round the sand, as far as I could see. The blinding mist came down and hid the land, and never home came she. Oh, is it weed, or fish, or floating hair, a tress of golden hair, a drowned maiden's hair above the nets at sea? 'Twas never salmon yet that shone so fair above the stakes on Dee. They rowed her in over the rolling foam, the cruel, crawling foam, the cruel, hungry foam, to her grave beside the sea. Yet still the boatmen hear her call the cattle home across the sands o' Dee.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dr. Hal.
I am just, oh, you know what? Rats. I don't have the ability to put something in the audience chat. So what I'm going to do is let me put the link for the after show chat.
I would be able to relay that for you.
Over in this chat.
While you are doing that, I just wanted to let everybody know there was a slight Ko-Fi misattribution on that last question. That last question asker was, in fact, Reverend Couch Sloth. Their partner is Reverend Puckamuck.
Oh, well, I hope the answer was suitable, whoever the questioner was.
All right, that link has been conveyed to the Twitch chat. Audience, please feel free to join us, as is customary after the show, in our after show chat. It's sort of an informal green room, and we would love to see you all there.
We would. I'm anticipating that.
We shall sip hot tea and visit.
Or it might be
beverages of our choice. I might put a little shot of rum in mine. I can't guarantee.
That sounds awfully nice.
Yeah, keep the grabbers from bothering.
That's right. Yeah, just a quick hot toddy, I think might be in order. It's sort of a cold night.
What does our audience think of the show where we have more questions than side trips and special features? Is that something you would like to see more of in the future, or does it matter to you whether we salt the program with the special features, which it is admittedly our delight to come up with?
Very true, very true. So audience, if you have an opinion, please do let us know. You can do that either in the Twitch chat or at our website, AskDrHalShow.com.
We take feedback.
That's true. We do take feedback.
We don't take criticism well, though.
No, we accept no criticism. No. We take no shit, but we will gladly accept your adulation and feedback.
Yeah, I'm not really cool with that either. Right? if you like the show, sure. If you like one of us especially, I don't know. It's just
Well, no,
now
yeah,
you're getting
just
weird.
keep that to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me spin those wheels one more time because
Yes,
I'm
let's give that
superstitious.
one more shake of the jar.
Nope,
Let's
nope. The
see
last
here.
one I have is Reverend Couch Sloth. Was it?
That's correct.
Because I have
Yes.
Reverend Puckamuck. It must be one of those
It
credit
was.
card
It seems
things.
they may be having difficulty with their
Well,
account.
There's
remember, there's a
something.
lengthy recitation coming up, which may be punctuated with all sorts of cold noise and sound effects.
Indeed,
There is that.
audience, you are in for a treat because of technological malfeasance. The exiting recitation will be performed live.
Uh,
Yes.
what? It's always performed live.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're absolutely correct.
Yes, it's performed live when we record it.
That's right.
It's
Yes.
right, right. I was there for it. Wait a minute, I heard it.
Hmm. Well, it is a
Well,
familiar lyric to me, and the counterpart to our opening recitation, L'Allegro.
Indeed. Yes.
It is the counter poem Il Penseroso. L'Allegro meaning the happy, jovial man, and Il Penseroso, the gloomy, philosophical man. Like the divide showed in our opening cartoon between the sunshine makers and the glooms. Some would prefer to be on the gloom side. But at any rate, I shall attempt to recite this if it is time. Is it?
I believe we will have a small interstitial. You will be on immediately following the ad for my beloved life partner's book, Shock City.
Oh, yes, let us see that.
Oh, pressure's counting you in. Here we go. All right. So, audience, please, we will love to see you at the after show chat. Thank
Please
you once
visit
again
her.
for joining us, and we will see you next month.
please be sure to join us for the next live Ask Dr. Hal Show Home Edition, Sunday, March 16th, 2025, only on Twitch. Visit our website at AskDrHalShow.com for information on this as well as where to find previous episodes. From there, Dr. Hal is only a finger click away.
Il Penseroso. Hence, vain, deluding joys, the brood of folly without father bred. How little you bestead, or fill the fixed mind with all your toys. Dwell in some idle brain, which fancies fond with gaudy shapes possess, as thick and numberless as the gay motes that people the sunbeams, or likest hovering dreams, the fickle pensioners of Morpheus' train. But hail, thou goddess, sage and holy, hail, divinest melancholy, whose saintly visage is too bright to hit the human sense of sight, and therefore to our weaker view o'erlaid with black, staid wisdom's hue. Black, but such as in esteem Prince Memnon's sister might beseem, or that starred Ethiop queen that strove to set her beauty's praise above the sea nymphs and their powers offended. Yet thou art higher far descended, thee, bright-haired Vesta, long of yore to solitary Saturn bore. His daughter she. In Saturn's reign, such mixture was not held a stain. Oft in glimmering bowers and glades he met her, and in secret shades of woody Ida's inmost grove, while yet there was no fear of Jove. Come, pensive nun, devout and pure, sober, steadfast, and demure, all in a robe of darkest grain, flowing with majestic train, and sable stole of cypress lawn over thy decent shoulders drawn. Come, but keep thy wonted state, with even step and musing gait, and looks commencing with the skies, thy rapt soul sitting in thine eyes. There held in holy passion still, forget thyself to marble, till, with a sad leaden downward cast, thou fix them on the earth as fast, and join with thee calm, peace, and quiet, spare fast, that oft with gods doth diet, and hears the muses in a ring, aye, round about Jove's altar sing. And add to these retired leisure, that in trim gardens takes his pleasure. But first and chiefest with thee bring him that yon soars on golden wing, guiding the fiery wheeled throne, the cherub Contemplation, and the mute Silence hissed along, lest Philomel will deign a song out of her sweetest, saddest plight, smoothing the rugged brow of night, while Cynthia checks her dragon yoke gently o'er the accustomed oak. Sweet bird, that shunst the noise of folly, most musical, most melancholy. Thee, chauntress, oft the woods among I woo to hear thy even song, and missing thee, I walk unseen on the dry, smooth-shaven green, to behold the wandering moon, riding near her highest noon, like one that hath been led astray through the heavens' wide pathless way, and oft, as if her head she bowed, stooping through a fleecy cloud. Oft on a plat of rising ground I hear the far-off curfew sound, over some wide, well-watered shore, swinging low with sullen roar. Or if the air will not permit, some still removed place will fit, where glowing embers through the room teach light to counterfeit a gloom, far from all resort of mirth, save for the cricket on the hearth, or the bellman's drowsy charm to bless the doors from nightly harm. Or let my lamp at midnight hour be seen in some high lonely tower, where I may oft outwatch the bear with thrice great Hermes, or unsphere the spirit of Plato, to unfold what worlds or what vast regions hold the immortal mind that hath forsook her mansion in this fleshy nook. And of those demons that are found in fire, air, flood, or underground, whose power hath a true consent with planet or with element. Sometime let gorgeous tragedy and sceptred Paul come sweeping by, presenting Thebes or Pelops' line, or the tale of Troy divine. Or what, though rare, of later age ennobled hath the buskined stage. But, O sad virgin, that thy power might raise Musaeus from his bower, or bid the soul of Orpheus sing such notes as warbled to the string, drew iron tears down Pluto's cheek, and made hell grant what love did seek. Or call up him that left half told the story of Cambuscan bold, of Camball and of Augur Seife, and who had Canacé to wife, that owned the virtuous ring and glass, and of the wondrous horse of brass, on which the Tartar king did ride, and if aught else great bards beside in sage and solemn tunes have sung, of tourneys and of trophies hung, of forests and enchantments drear, where more is meant than meets the ear. Thus, night, oft see me in thy pale career, till civil-suited morn appear, not tricked and frounced as she was wont with the Attic boy to hunt, but kerchiefed in a comely cloud, while rocking winds are piping loud, or ushered with a shower still, when the gust hath blown his fill, ending on the rustling leaves, with minute drops from off the eaves. And when the sun begins to fling his flaring beams, me, goddess, bring to arched walks of twilight groves and shadows brown that sylvan loves of pine or monumental oak, where the rude axe with heaved stroke was never heard the nymphs to daunt or fright them from their hallowed haunt. There, in close covert by some brook, where no profaner eye may look, hide me from day's garish eye, while the bee with honeyed thigh that at her flowery work doth sing, and all the waters, murmuring, with such consort as they keep, entice the dewy feathered sleep. And may some strange, mysterious dream wave at his wings, in airy stream of lively portraiture displayed, softly on mine eyelids laid, and as I wake, sweet music breathe, above, about, or underneath, sent by some spirit to mortals good, or the unseen genius of the wood. But let my dew feet never fail to walk the studious cloisters pale, and love the high embowered roof, with antique pillars, massy proof, and storied windows richly dight, casting a dim religious light. There let the pealing organ blow to the full-voiced choir below, in service high, with anthem clear, as may, with sweetness, through mine ear, dissolve me into ecstasies, and bring all heaven before mine eyes. And may at last my weary age find out the peaceful hermitage, the hairy gown and mossy cell, where I may sit and rightly spell of every star that heaven doth know, and every herb that sips the dew, till old experience do attain to something like prophetic strain. These pleasures, melancholy, give, and I with thee will choose to live. John Milton.